we need to understand about what? Storage. What you need to understand? Storage. So what is storage exactly? You can easily understand here. Today we are talking about storage service. So what we need to understand, so what we have done till now, we understood something about how to create a cluster of virtual machines with a load balancer, and how to create a network. That means how to make divisions, how to allocate a kind of subnet for them. There's going to be one network, there's going to be second network. That means you have a web tier. We understood this kind of thing, and we got what? App tier. Okay, we say app tier. So now there's going to be one. Is it A? Is it B? Here we got what? Is it A? Is it B? So we got understanding about what is availability zone, how to design it, why we need to design it. We got an understanding, and even we got what? Everything should be under what? VPC, single network. We know up to here we able to design a network and a computing devices and making cluster to make our application as high availability with the help of this component. Now we got in what? Region 1, example Ohio, and we understood about ELB, we understood about auto scale. So it's going to be ELB. So internal ELB is different, external ELB. The work process will be same, but only public and private. When you establish a load balancer, you're going to establish a load balancer for application tier, which is acting as a backend. App tier is basically called as what? Backend server. Backend server, and this is called as what? Front-end server. Terminologies are very important to understand a technical point in a technical way. So what we have designed, we are able to make up this kind of facility, but we are not bothered about till now about storage. If you do not know storage, your bill, your client bill can be more, but client want what? Cost efficient solution. Cost efficient solution. So till now on a computing and networking, we can give cost efficient solution and high availability, as we have designed your VPC in a high availability mode, right? In a high availability mode we have designed. So now what we need to do is, we are able to now, okay, and we know that the load balancer can distribute on a across zones. It cannot work across region. It can work within a region. And here one more, we have a load balancer which is acting as a backend. So it's a private load balancer which works on private IP, private subnet. This we place on a public subnet, and it's going to be an external, which is going to be have what? Direct interaction to the clients. Now what I want is, this applications is going to communicate this. The front tier will communicate, the web tier will communicate to application tier as a load balancer. That means the traffic comes from web tier. The traffic to the external load balancer is basically comes from web tier, and web tier will get a traffic from external users. So now we have understood about networking and security, but you forget about what? Storage. Storage is also a kind of core component of your infrastructure which can make difference in your architect. That means redundancy, data durability is very important, because your all the project is depends on what? Data durability. Data is very important. Data is very confidential. You need to talk about integration. You need to go for availability. That is CIA. 3 principles. CIA principle is what? Under security, you have a CIA. That is what? Confidentiality, integrity, and available. These principles basically cybersecurity practice, confidentiality, integrity and availability of your application or data or your service. So now when you're talking about this confidentiality, that comes under security. How to protect it? Integrity, the data should not be tampered. Availability, that means the data should be available always. It should not be hacked. It should not be locked by someone and says that give me money, I lock. If you want to unlock, give me money. That is ransom. So now it's on a security base. So whenever talking about storage, you need to talk about what? The cost. We have not wondered, we have not think about storage. How do you store? That means strategy of storing data. We don't know right now, till now. And the cost efficiency. We need to go for a cost efficiency, and you need to go for what? Durability of the data. And we need to go for what? Security of data. We should bother about these kind of parameters while talking about storage. So now we did up to here with the understanding, with the diagram, with the 3-tier architecture we did. Now what we have to do, we need to bother about this. Earlier what we did, every EC2 machine will work on what? EBS, elastic block storage. Elastic block storage. That means every EC2 having a local disk attached to it. That is called what? EBS. Amazon says that they offer how many storage? Example, I'm coming here. What is storage? It's a kind of what? Device to store data permanent. In a computer, you have 2 types, storage and memory. What is memory? It's also storage, but the terminology here, it's also a kind of storage, but temporary. You can do what? Temporary storage. You cannot go for permanent. RAM is the example for this, random access memory, and the example of this is what? HDD or SSD storage. What we have in laptop or desktop. So whenever you're launching, the example, if you want to store the data, you're going to store data where? On a local disk, right? Operating, like where you install application or software in a Docker disk permanently. So you need to understand this terminology. We are not talking about memory. The subject is what? Storage. So now we need to understand how to select. What is the strategy you have to make when you're storing data and when you're working at enterprise level. When you work on what? Enterprise level. So what you need to understand, basic components of storage before going to directly cloud. Local storage. In our computer, types of storage. The number 1 is what? Local storage. In that, you find 2 types of disk, HDD and SSD. Types of disk, HDD and SSD. HDD is a old kind of technology. It's a cheaper, not reliable, not faster compared to what? SSD. In a market, you you find two types of storage disk. That means HDD and SSD. HDD we used to have, it's going to be very heavy and it's having mechanical component, electromechanical component, moving components will be there into it. So now you're going to select HDD or SSD on the base of your use case and the cost. You want to work on a work like basically which is not very important for you. The data is not important, but you want to have some run software or something, right? Internal work you're doing. So you just go for what? HDD. Because it's not reliable. When you're talking about my data is very important, it should be very protected, then you go for what? Not HDD. You have to go for 10 times reliable, 10 times faster and costlier. But it's costlier, but very fast. Example, you have a laptop with your HDD and you start the laptop on, it says loading. It takes 10-15 seconds to start your desktop, sometime 1 minute also. And if you start any Oracle or Java, it takes 5 seconds or 10 seconds, then start. But if you have SSD, you feel, you just switch on, you get your login screen. Flash. That means SSD is very faster than what? HDD. 10 times reliable means what? If I throw my disk HDD from 4 feet, if I drop, the chances of HDD is going to be healthy. That means it's going to be safe. It's going to be the chances of dead. That means chances of not working is going to be what? 99% is going to be dead. But if I throw SSD from 5th floor, the chances of death is what? Only 1%. The SSD will not get soon damaged. So it's more than reliable than this, and it's very lightweight. You can keep in your pocket also. 10 times faster. So that's definitely is going to be costly. So now you need to understand object data and block data. That means whenever you're storing data, you can say types of data. When the user working on a data storage, so they need to understand about what is object, what is block. The data which is stored into a block level, that means you can say not data, you can say storing. You can store the data as an object, you can store as a what? Block. When you want to say that I want to store data in a block, that means the hard disk is divided logically again into small cluster and sectors. Example, you created a file, Excel file. In Excel file, you have written a lot of records, data, and you have entered. Now, whenever you store in a like storage, it will be divided into small chunk. So, if I want to edit only 3rd line or 4th line, it will work only 3rd line, 4th line. The 10 MB file or 20 MB file, it will not input and output. That means whole file will not be up and down. Directly I can edit the file on a particular location. That means it's going to be very smooth. You can edit, you can delete very faster in a block. But when you have a block, that is object. Object means what? A complete video file or photo file which not basically needed to edit regularly. You just read it. The data which you read is called object data. The data which is basically read and write, you modify, you work on that, updating, deleting. So you got what? Block data. EBS, block level storage. EBS is storage of your Amazon. You can change here types of storage service offered by AWS. How many services they are offering? One is S3, EBS, EFS and EBS. 3 types of basically they are offering. Block level, object level. EBS, block level storage. S3 is the what? object level storage. And you have a what? File system. That is called what? EFS. EFS is a file system where you want to keep and you want to share to multiple servers. So use what? EFS. So now I can say here, storage in enterprise level. How they do? They have a local storage and they have a network storage. In network storage, you can have public storage or private. So now what you need to understand, in enterprise level, how they store it. They want to have one storage, a central storage for all servers. Example is my storage. This is my what? S3 service. What is it? S3 service. In that I want to store some data. So I'm going to go for what? I'm going to create some container here. That is your storage object, a folder, container, or you can say bucket. I want that this application, a Tomcat application, or you have a Java application here, a Java application running and the code and everything is there, but this code need to access some photos or videos or something. Flipkart example, application which have millions of videos and photos, because every product will have 6 to 7 photos, videos, demo, right, for the products. So this all the data, videos and photos, where we are going to store? You have two options, three options, whether S3, EFS or EBS. If you go for local storage, it's going to be very costly and it's going to store into what? Local. And local storage is made for only for what? Single user. But if you access multiple user into this, local storage will get performance issues. System get hang. But when you go for network storage, it is made for multiple users. Multiple user can access at a time. That means 100 and 1000 people can access same time the data. There is no problem on the network storage because it is designed and built for that purpose only, as a central storage. Central storage. In enterprise level, you'll find two types of storage. The network storage can be public, can be private. Now I want to have a network storage for my internal applications. The internal application can use my storage, not for public share. But some storage I want to go for what? I want that my client or other people can access remotely from anywhere. That is called what? Public storage. So now, where should I keep? We have a like S3 as a public storage, and now we have a what? One more storage. EFS. Both are network storage. They are not local attached to the servers. The attached servers, which is attached to the EC2 server, is your EC2 machines. So this is called what? EBS. What is that? Like our hard disk, attached hard disk to your computer. So EBS is basically made for what? It's attached to the local your EC2 machine, which basically provide operating system facility, operating system installation and application. If you want to store Oracle, Java or Linux, Windows, you install where? Local disk, but it's not possible on a remote disk. So remote disk for what? Centralized storage system. So this EFS can be used for what? As a private storage, and it can run what? Example, Java code I want to keep here, HTML code I want to keep here, I can keep this. And S3 I want to keep what? Videos, I want to go for picture, I want to say what? Audio, I want to say PDF, I want to say a lot of data which is object. That means you read, you don't edit and modify regularly. That kind of data is called what? Object data. So your S3 is a what? Object level storage. So all videos and pictures if you have in your application, so you are not going to store on EBS. EBS is very costlier than S3. EBS is very costly than S3. Now understand this, you understand how it is designed. S3 is a network storage, EF is a network storage, but EBS is a what? Local storage to every server. So as I said, local storage and network storage, enterprise level. What is IOPS? When you purchase a hard disk from a market and when you go for a shop one and you ask for 2 TB hard disk, they'll say what? 4,000 example. But you want to inquire, you want to find out best price. You went to our next shop and you find what? You find they're saying 4,500. And you go for next shop, same 2 TB you want. But they said what? 3,000. That is differences. So if I approach, because only for the cost, it's not a technical decision. It's not a technical decision. What you have to look? You have to look for the storage size and you have to look for the IO. Whenever you purchase, you have to look two parameters. What is the IOPS of the disk and what is the storage size? 2 TB with 200 IOPS, 500 IOPS. Maybe the first person who said that means it's going to be 500 IOPS, and the last person who said 3,000, the less price, it can be 200 IOPS. The slower than this. Normally, when you go for pen drive, you see the pen drive. Pen drive will have what? One is 2.0 and 3.0. If you say like, oh, pen drive is like a good pen drive, it's going to be 32 GB or 16 GB. I want to purchase because it's 150 or 200 I found. So when I purchase and when I want to copy the data, oh, it's taking 2 hours and 3 hours to copy. Because of what? The speed of the pen drive, the input and output of the transaction is very low. That's why you have selected on the base of the storage. You have to look at what? IOPS also. IOPS is a like unit, parameter unit for what? Testing size, to define the size. More IOPS, more higher speed. That means input, output per second. In a per second, how much data can be input, output? Example, per second I can go for 3 GB. I can transfer 3 GB. That means it's very faster. 4 GB, very faster. So now IOPS are very important while choosing the storage. It's not always size. Performance, if you want to care, you need to understand about what? Input, output per second. In per second, how much data can be in, how much data can be out, because your hard disk is transactional hard disk. Some people are just taking the data out, some people want to read the data, that is called reading and write, right? Some want to store it. Store it means what? Storing input. Output means what? Getting the data back, that is called what? Output. You need to check speed of as I said, network based storage is basically what? SAN storage or NAS storage, you can say what? In an infrastructure, basically we call what? SAN or NAS. In enterprise level, when you go for a company, you'll find SAS or NAS storage as a word, network storage. You have to purchase very costly server of storage in a market. Computing server is different. That means the processor is designed for computing, but storage server is different because the processor is designed for making a more priority to the storage. The CPU will be designed specially for storage access, and you'll have array of disk. You have what? Array of disk. One server will have what? 16, 24 disk, but our laptop desktop can have what? Only one disk or 2 disk. In our desktop, you can have 4 disks maximum, but in laptop, you can have 1 disk. But in servers, you'll have 16, 24 disks of what? 4 TB each. 4 TB multiplied by what? 10. That means 40 TB. That means in a real-time enterprise, you need data is growing and growing and growing. So you can imagine that Flipkart having millions of videos and audios and PDF or images. So where they are going to store? Are they going to store in a local storage? It's going to be slow and costly. If 100 people, millions of people are accessing the data, if they want to watch video, that means they are accessing. Millions of customers what? Accessing the data, where store? In a local disk. Local disk is not designed for multiple user access. Local disk designed for what? Single user access. Okay. Now, when you're talking about network storage, if I keep, so what I have to decide whether that storage it should be EFS or S3. How to decide it? Example, you have developer. A developer has given word. They prepare the code. They said JavaScript, HTML, CSS. They did a lot of things, and they said what videos and photos, which is used in the project. Logos, photos, videos. So all things they want, and they said what the size of this videos and photos are heavy, 20 GB size. They say what initial 20 GB, and the size of the document, JavaScript, HTML, and all these files, maybe 100 files or something. So it's going to work 1 GB. Now, when the developers ready with your software, and is now I want to deploy into the machine. So what I'll do is Java, HTML, and this contains dynamic contains. I'll keep to where? I'll keep into where? EFS. Because EFS is a dynamic storage which can read and write. Now Java need to be updated, HTML need to be updated. Our developer can connect, can change everything. Videos and this, photos and PDF and all these things, you have to store where? So developer, when they give, you have to split the data in different storage on the basis of what? Costing. On the basis of what? Costing. I can keep all the data in local storage. There is no problem. Storage is storage. You want to store it. But if you do not know about the costing, functionality of the disk, definitely the performance will be get low and the cost will increase. That means you have to store with a proper strategy where to store. Now, what I want to do is, I want to do what? I decided like how the developer gives and how to distribute the dynamic data, HTML, the code, CSS, JavaScript, whatever the data you have, PHP, Python code, you're going to store where? On EFS, because it's a dynamic code which need and modification changes on the base of the function, and developer use a lot of updates and patch up on that regularly. So now I want to relate your Java application to this code. That means the application server which is running, but I don't want to store the code, because if I store the code here, imagine what happened when the cluster, when the auto scaling is creating duplication, data will get duplicate. That means your 1 GB data become what? If 100 servers, it's going to be 100 GB. Unnecessary, we are wasting the money. 100 GB you have to pay for the Amazon monthly. So you're reducing the money or not? So if you keep the data, imagine that why not to keep? The question is what? Can I keep the data on a local storage? I want to store into what? Local storage. Yes, it's possible. But when you're going for a cluster, auto scaling, duplicating the machine with the same data in every machine, the data will be duplicated. So it should not be. So what we have to do? We have to link this file system to every machine. We have to link what? We have to link, only link, but data store actually stored into what? EFS, remote disk. But we need to create a link only. So when the servers are duplicating, only operating system and application getting duplicated, no problem. But what I need, I want data should not be duplicated unnecessary, because to reduce the cost. So it's a good strategy to store what? EFS. But if I have in a website, because definitely website will have photos, PDF or videos and audios. Online you can say that audiobooks. People are now giving what? Audiobooks. No need to read. Just listen it. All the audio will be stored. And then if I go with this website, you'll find a lot of audios. If I go for YouTube, you have a lot of videos. Millions of videos are there. So where to store? How the people, the cloud computing, how the architect engineer is storing the data to reduce the cost, because millions of data stored in a local disk is going to be very costly, heavy, and the performance will be low. If millions are using YouTube, they want to access the particular video, so definitely your disk will get slow and your performance get out. But millions of users connect, even though the performance should be well. So network storage is very suitable for what? This. But we have a confusion on what? EFS and S3. So EFS, you keep only the dynamic data, and the videos and picture, audio comes under what? Objects. What is that? Objects. So all the object you need to keep where? In S3. So S3 is the cheapest storage in all. If I keep audio, video and everything EFS, I can store it. Then what happened? The cost will increase. For the object storage, they have created S3, which is basically designed for objects to read, to download and upload. That's it. Not modification, not updating inventory. There is no transactional kind of thing available, but only you need to what? Download and upload. So now we have this situation. We got an idea how developers gives and how we distribute the data, how we keep. But your operating system, where you're running operating system? Operating system plus application. You're running on what? Local disk. OS and application. You got the point now? So here, how do you store? The dynamic data should be EFS. Your static contains like a video, photos and all those things, like an object, you have to store into what? S3. S3 is the very cheapest storage in your cloud, and is for what? Read operations. Multiple users, millions of users connect to that S3, there is no performance issues. You got the point 3? How we design? In a on-premises, what we used to do? If I go for some storage in a network is dedicated, independent, high-speed network that interconnects and delivers shared pools of storage devices to multiple servers. Each server can access shared disk as what they drive directly attached to it. But it's not attached, but it's going to be act as that. This is servers. Basically, it's going to show in a practical language. You can see SAN and NAS. The servers basically here, Ethernet switch and NAS. Here storage box. So all computers are connected to what? Storage box. Here also what? A secondary storage, RAID, server, FC switch, fiber optic, clients. The storage what? SAN. Secondary storage. Now SAN is more reliable than NAS. Now understand, according to cloud, TB for RAID space, 600 TB for allocated, 200 for what? TB use. Now I have purchased a capacity of this what? You purchase what? Petabyte. After terabyte, you have a petabyte. So altogether space. You pay for this what? 800 TB you have is used for what? Clubbing the disk. Example 4 TB, 4 TB, or have a good disk and have clubbed all the disks, and the big space created, that is called RAID space. What is that? RAID space. So 800 is cleared, but allocated what? Out of that, I want to use only 600 TB allocated. I am using what? Out of 600 I have used what? 400. So I have to pay for what? What I purchase. Whether you use or not, you have to pay for the storage. Now Amazon says what? In cloud storage, how much you use, that much you have to pay. How much you use, that much you have to pay. S3 EFS is basically what? Pay as you go model. Pay as you go. Pay as you go model. But EFS, EBS is allocate base. It's going to be charged what? Allocation base. Allocation base. That means if you allocate 24 GB or 100 GB and you're using only 30 GB, you have to pay for what? 100 GB. You allocate. You use or not, Amazon says that you're reserved. So you have to use. But for ES3 and EFS, it's a pay as you go model. How much you use, that much you have to pay. And even there is a kind of option what? There's a discounts plus use more get discount. Amazon will offer discounts also. If you more example, I am using 1 TB, 2 TB disk. So Amazon says if you store in this manner, so we'll give what? Discount price. You understand, SAN is enterprise network storage. Storage network example for FC SAN include ERP, CRM, SAP, Oracle, something they want to run. So they can run it. In this EFS, you see here, the diagram is what? A central storage, all machines are connected to switches. And you understand this concept. Now, what you have to understand is theoretical part. So in a EFS, it's not only dynamic data, Java code, Python code or something. You can install Oracle, SAP in ERP also. Cloud storage series, EBS, elastic block storage, NAS, network storage service, cloud storage, EFS. Now, basically, when you go for service, EBS is about local storage, NAS is about network storage, cloud base, and FSX is also what? Storage. It is for Windows, it is for what? Linux. So now what we got information that Amazon offers what? 3 types of storage: S3, EFS, EBS. So why they have divided this? They said to maintain the cost and performance, you need to understand this 3 types of storage, and you have to distribute. You have to store the data on a strategy of what? Cost and performance. You have a dynamic data code application. You want to say WordPress. You want to install. So where you install? EFS. And if you want to install operating system, you install what? EBS, local storage. But if you want to store objects, video, photos, and PDF and all those things, you store where? S3. S3 the best place and cheapest place. Storage offered by Amazon. S3, and you have to understand the differences between S3 and EFS and EBS, because we got idea that how we distribute on the basis of 2 factors. What is that? Storage and performance. Storage and performance. So we use 2 factors to store our data: storage and as well as performance. So cost and performance. Remember this point? On 2 factors. What is that? Cost and The purpose of the S3 is what? To store objects. To store. They design basically on for objects. And here sometime we call as what? For warm operation. What is that? Warm operation means what? Write once, read many times. You upload the data. Example in YouTube. What people are doing? Someone is uploading. That means writing. And millions of people are reading. So write once, read more. It is not designed for transactional data. That means when you are doing Excel file or any kind of software you want to run and you want regularly you editing what? Your file. So it is not suitable for that. It's only what? Write once, read many. So what is the model of pricing? How they charge? Pay as you go model. And as well as what? Use more, get less. Less price. Limited. Limits of the storage what? Unlimited. Durability 11.9. That means remember this point. Default. It create 3 copies. It create 3 copies across zone. That means when you store something, it will be copied into what? Multiple zones. So that's basically what? Durability will increase. If tomorrow Amazon says email, that means I'm sorry, the Ohio availability zone is not available, having some kind of problem. So my data is not lost. My data is available in what? That's why Amazon is saying 11.9 durability on S3. 11.9 in durability. Now, scope of accessing. How can I access this S3 storage data? Yes, you can store globally from anywhere because it is a what? Internet base. The storage is what? Internet based. That means it has a kind of internet connection, global connection. We can access it directly from anywhere, which is not connected to VPC, which is not a part of what? Not a part of what? VPC. We know VPC is a what? Local network, intranet, which is not connected to S3. But I said it can be connected in the case of what? If you want to make secure communication, if you want to transfer the data internally, objects, then you have to create what? Endpoints. I have given example of endpoints also. Fine. Now, you got an idea about scope, durability, limits, the purpose and the pricing, how they charge. And you say what? Is it accessible public? Yes. Can I run operating system here? Application? No. It is not designed for installing operating system applications. It is designed only for this. The purpose I said what? Backup files, video, photos, videos, something, and as well as you can say static website. It's very important in S3. You can do static website also in very quick way. Dynamic application is different. Static application. Dynamic application means which takes input from you. Uploading, downloading, registration page, payment gateways, searching, these all are what? Dynamic website. The website which having only the display, that contact information, services, about us, videos, photos, this is called what? Static website. For static website, S3 is a very cheapest and faster way to develop. It's a kind of network private storage. The purpose is what? To store dynamic data. Java code, WordPress. Java code and example, I want to use Java code, I want to say WordPress application. Can I store it? It is suitable for that. Price, pay as you go model. Storage limit. Limit is unlimited. Scope. It's a regional level because it's what? As it's attached to what? It's need VPC. It will create under the network, intranet. It's a regional wise. Public? No. Because the VPC connected internally, you cannot access directly. Can I operating system run application? No. Can I mount EFS space? Yes, only for not Windows. Protocols, what exactly used for communication? NFS. What is that? Network file system. Now EBS is what? Local attached. EFS S3 is a network storage. Local attached storage to EC2 server. The purpose is what? Run operating system application, mission criticals, Oracle, SAP. You should not go for EFS something. You have to install where? Your EBS. Limitation. And PI is what? Pay as you allocate. Limit. Per server, how many volumes you can dash? 20. Scope. ASAP, availability zone level. That here you can say what? Scope is what? The limit is 16 TB, but EFS S3 will have what? Unlimited. Here limited. And scope is what? Availability zone only. That means if I create the EBS volume under this particular region, it will be available in that region only. EBS costly is in what? And cheapest is what? S3. EFS is what? Costlier than S3. So now we got idea about what? Storage. How we plan in a practical way. I have given a diagrammatic way. Developer gives and how to distribute the data. Operating system application will be installed on your EC2 attached EBS value, but your code and application can be installed on EFS to avoid data duplication, and EBS will hold this, and all the objects data stored into where? S3. S3. So we got about this idea, theoretical part. Now is the time of what? Action. Because in the storage you got what is storage, what is SSD, what is HDD difference. The best is what? SSD for performance and these things. And we got idea about what? The differences, like how to allocate to save the cost. Whether we go for EBS, EFS or S3. How to decide it? On what basis? Cost and performance. Cost and performance, that's why we are distributing the data in here and there. Limitation we should know, scope, access, how can I use it, IOPS we need to understand, because the decision of your storage is what? Based on speed, that is your IOPS, and capacity, right? Now this practical, tomorrow onwards, we are going to start with S3, first practicals. We need to explore S3 well. Then we can go for EBS, EFS is very simple task. But S3 we need to have a lot of options. S3 is common for developer testing. Every employees of the company will use what? S3. It's a collaboration services. They want to share something with the team. You can do that. And a lot of things are there. We'll see. Is it clear? Up to here, any questions? So I'm just closing this. Nice. So, well, we start now.